We've covered the warmest states in America, and now you might be wondering, where in the US is it the coldest? The places where winter seems eternal, where there's practically always snow on the ground, and where the locals' idea of summer is 60 degrees and cloudy. Well, today we're going to be looking at the top 10 coldest states in America. Number 10, Michigan. Michigan's position in the northern part of the United States makes it prone enough to cold temperatures, but add in lake effect weather and you've got a recipe for one of the coldest states in the country. The temperatures here average 45.3 degrees Fahrenheit. For some context, let's look at some of the warmest states and their average temperatures. These are Florida and Hawaii, which have average annual temperatures of about 71.5 and 70 degrees respectively. So Michigan's average annual temperature is a whopping 26 plus degrees below that. And while the average lows in January may be in the double digits at about 17 degrees. Let's not forget about that lake effect weather. In fact, if you look at a map of Michigan, you might notice that it's surrounded by lakes, Great Lakes to be exact. These include Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, and Lake Erie. And while these may make for a fun beach and boating days in the summer and the winter, it means one thing: cold. Number 9, New Hampshire. Did you know that New Hampshire gets the most snow out of any other state in the US? That's right, New Hampshire gets an average of over 174 inches of snow each year. And while you might feel cold just thinking about all of that snow, if you happen to find yourself in New Hampshire during the winter months, you'll likely be pretty cold too. Average annual temperatures in the Granite State are about 44.2 degrees Fahrenheit. And in New Hampshire's state capital, Concord winter months see single digits and elsewhere. In the state, it can get even colder on Mount Washington's summit. For instance, there was a negative 108-degree wind chill recorded in recent months. Of course, most people aren't hanging out at the top of 6,000-plus foot Mount Washington on a daily basis. So even if you live here, this probably doesn't apply to you, but even so, in parts of northern New Hampshire, it's not uncommon for winter temperatures to hit below zero. Number 8, Idaho. Idaho's average annual temperature is a balmy 44 degrees Fahrenheit. And yes, I'm saying balmy sarcastically, plus the temperatures here fluctuate wildly, according to the Western Regional Climate Center temperatures in Boise. Idaho's capital have been known to hit lows of negative 60 degrees in the winter and highs of 118 degrees in the summer. Of course, temperature swings in Idaho aren't always as dramatic as these records, but they are pretty intense nonetheless. For instance, the average coldest month in Boise is negative 20 degrees, and the average warmest month is 104 degrees, number 7. Wisconsin's average annual temperature, for instance, 44 degrees Fahrenheit in Madison, Wisconsin's capital. This means winters in the single digits and summers barely peaking at 80 degrees, in other words. You'll probably be inside most of the year if you live here, unless you're a real winter lover. And while the state overall doesn't get as much snow as places like New Hampshire, some areas get nearly as much. Take northern Wisconsin, for instance, in this part of the state, especially near Lake Superior. Winters can see nearly 160 inches of snow. Let me break down the map for you. That's over 13 feet of snow each year. In fact, the snow is such a fixture of life in Wisconsin that residents of Madison even gave their snowplows a name as part of a citywide contest. I guess the thinking is that if you see a snowplow, that often you might as well have a name for it. Number 6, Vermont. Vermont is widely considered one of the coldest states in the US and also one of the states with the longest winters. Apparently, the average yearly temperature here is only about 43 degrees year-round if you remember our Florida and Hawaii comparisons, where annual temperatures are nearly 30 degrees above that. I bet you can visualize how cold this state gets. The state of Vermont is considered the third snowiest state in the entire country, getting an average of 80.2 inches of snow each year. Remember, that's the average across the entire state. So some towns in Vermont get far more than that. Winter also seems kind of eternal. Snow usually hits the ground in November, though it's also been known to arrive as early as October and generally last through March or even into April. So on a normal year, you might be looking at 5 months of snowy winter. And on the high end, 7 months. All this means that Vermonters spend approximately half of their lives in the snow. And if you live here, being cold just becomes a way of life. Number 5, Wyoming. Did you know that Wyoming has the second highest elevation out of any other state in the US? That's right. Wyoming comes second to only Colorado at an average elevation of 6,700 feet above sea level versus Colorado's 6,800. I know what you're thinking. What does this have to do with the gold well? Because of Wyoming's elevation, this state can get chilly. In fact, average temperatures here are only about 42.3 degrees Fahrenheit in many areas. Summer temperatures are only around 50 to 60 degrees. I don't know about you, but that doesn't really sound like hang by the pool kind of weather to me, and the winters are far, far worse. The coldest month in Wyoming is January, in which temperatures typically hover around 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And the coldest temperature ever recorded in Wyoming was in 1933 when the thermometer hit -6, 66 degrees, number 4 Maine. New Englanders have a reputation for being a tough, hardy bunch, and I'm pretty sure the people in Maine have contributed significantly to that opinion because unlike tourists who flock to Maine's beaches for the summer months, you've got to be pretty tough to live in this freezing state year-round. That's right, Maine is cold. The average annual temperature in Maine is only 41.9 degrees Fahrenheit, making it by far one of the chilliest states in America. And in 2009, the coldest temperature was recorded near the town of Allagash in northern Maine. Drumroll, please. This temperature was -50 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, Maine is the second snowiest state in the U.S., receiving an average of 92 inches of snow each year. Number 3. Minnesota, Wisconsin's neighbor Minnesota shares more than just a border with the Badger State. It also shares some pretty cold weather and long-lasting winter. If you've ever been to Minnesota, you might have noticed that parking garages are frequently heated. That's not just because it makes for a pleasant experience. When you get out of your car in the winter, it's done out of necessity because according to a Minneapolis-based automotive shop, the freezing cold in Minnesota is enough to completely kill your car's battery. And by freezing temperatures, I'm talking about sub-zero temperatures. The average winter temperature in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area can reach lows of -13 degrees in January with highs in the single digits. But wind chill is where it gets really bad in 2006. A storm tore through the Twin Cities that resulted in the coldest wind chill ever seen in the area. The temperature -34 degrees Fahrenheit. And again, that's just in the Minneapolis-St. Paul region. Go further north and you might find temperatures that are even colder. Thief River Falls, for instance, a city in northwestern Minnesota, received one of the coldest wind chills ever seen, where temperatures hit a record -54 degrees. Do you get the heated parking garages? Now, number 2, North Dakota. It's probably no surprise that North Dakota is high up on this list. After all, North Dakota is one of the northernmost points on the continental United States. Aside from Alaska, of course, this means cold, with average annual temperatures here of only 41.4 degrees Fahrenheit, according to the state of North Dakota. Winters here can get pretty brutal. Think winter from November to March, 3 to 4 severe winter storms every year. And freezing temperatures and frigid winds in Fargo, for instance, January sees average lows of about -2 degrees, daytime highs. Meanwhile, are only about 16 degrees, still well below freezing. And when it comes to the summer months, there's not too much relief there either. In July, North Dakota's warmest month, Fargo sees temperatures peak at about 80 degrees, while lows are around 60. Oh, and those rigid winds, I'm in the coldest one. On record was -74 degrees in January of 1936. You heard that right, -74 degrees. I don't know about you, but I'm getting cold just thinking about that number 1. Alaska is top on our list of coldest states in the U.S., and as the northernmost state in the U.S., that shouldn't come as much of a surprise, but you might be surprised to learn just how cold it gets. The average annual temperature in Alaska is about 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Yep, you heard that right. Only 28 degrees in southern and coastal Alaska, which typically seem milder weather. Summer temperatures usually peak around 60 degrees, while winters can see anywhere from 0 degrees to -30 degrees Fahrenheit. To me, that sounds cold enough, but if you can believe it, that's practically sunbathing weather compared to parts of northern Alaska. A city in the Fairbanks region of northern Alaska is one of the coldest areas in the state, appropriately named North Pole, this city. sees winter temperatures hovering around negative 14 degrees, though it can dip all the way down to negative 40 degrees. So what about those warmer states? Watch that video right here and subscribe to our channel Earth Explorer Hub for more interesting facts around the Woolard.